welcome to the Deep Dive. Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're taking you straight into the heart of Ethiopia, looking at some really critical stories shaping the nation. And we're drawing directly from the pages of Addis Fortune, where we work. It's the country's largest English weekly newspaper, so we're seeing this stuff unfold right on the ground. Our goal, like always, is to cut through the noise, give you the context you need, and maybe show you some surprising facts behind the headlines. We want to help you understand why these things matter, what they might mean for you. Today we're covering a lot: the economy, financial reforms, big development plans, city challenges, social stuff too.
It's definitely a crucial time. And our reporting at Addis Fortune, it really shows how interconnected everything is. These aren't just separate news stories. They paint a picture, a picture of where Ethiopia is right now. Shows the potential, but also, the big hurdles.
That contrast, potential versus hurdles, that's exactly what we want to explore. So let's dive into the first big one, this ongoing currency crisis. We keep hearing about reforms, but the parallel markets, they seem to be doing just fine. What's really going on with the birr?
Well, it's what we've kind of called the floated currency promise meets hard reality.
Yeah.
Our analysis, looking at the Addis Fortune reports, shows that even though the National Bank, NBE, started its Forex auctions again, and there was that 2-month gap earlier, right? And that really hit the banks hard. They couldn't issue new letters of credit, which importers absolutely need. So many banks had to just focus on clearing out the old applications first.
And you hear it directly from traders, don't you?
Yeah.
People like Sultan Yusuf importing cars, chemicals, they're stuck. They've got the birr, but the banks are just dragging their feet on the LCs, even adding extra charges.
Exactly. And those surcharges, they narrow the gap between the official rate and the street rate.
So it almost pushes them towards the parallel market anyway.
It does, because they need dollars now. And the parallel market offers that immediacy. Plus, you've got all this speculation flying around. Rumors that the official rate might actually double by September.
Wow.
Yeah. So that just fuels even more demand outside the banks, even when there's a big auction, like recently, which caused a little dip in the parallel rate, the basic shortage. It's still there.
It's been about a year since those big reforms back in July 2024. That's when the NBE got rid of the fixed exchange rate regime after, almost 70 years. What was the big idea behind that massive shift? And how's it looking now?
The main aim was pretty clear. Fix the macroeconomic imbalances, try and unlock that big chunk of funding, nearly $6 billion from the IMF and the World Bank. But the IMF's recent comments, they show there are rising risks. That spread between the official and parallel rates, it's widened again quite a bit, around 15%, they said. And there are reasons: high transaction costs, not enough liquidity between banks, plus that 2.5% commission the NBE takes on trades. The IMF is basically pushing for, stronger monetary policy, more transparency.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. We're seeing pretty sharp disagreements about who or what is actually causing this gap to persist.
Yeah.
What are the different sides saying?
Oh, definitely. You talk to importers like Fraser Sisse, and the frustration is palpable. He mentioned that before all this, getting Forex requests cleared might take a week. Now, banks are asking for deposits sometimes twice the amount needed.
Twice?
Yeah. And approvals can take months, often just stuck in some committee review.
But then you hear from banking industry folks like Demisu Kasa from the Ethiopian Bankers Association. He says it's not the banks. He's pointing fingers at illegal intermediaries, right?
That's his line. But then you have others, like Merit Fikir Yohannes from Pragma Capital, who push back. He criticizes what he calls unfair requirements banks put on importers. He even suggests banks might be holding back currency to, attract deposits via those letters of credit.
So essentially arguing the banks have the dollars but aren't releasing them efficiently.
Exactly. He also brings up political instability as another factor driving up prices. It's a mix of things.
So how's the NBE governor, Memo Mahiratu, handling all this pressure and these different views?
Well, Governor Mamo has been pretty consistent. He defends the policy, promises the auctions will continue, and gives these quite forceful warnings against using the illicit markets. He keeps emphasizing that the national Forex reserves have tripled over the last year. IMF figures put it over $3 billion now.
Which is enough for
about 2.1 months of imports, according to the IMF data. And to show they have, firepower, the NBE did float a big amount, $150 million, early in August. And we did see a noticeable drop in the parallel market rate right after that.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the ground level. For an everyday person or a small business owner, What does this constant struggle for dollars actually feel like? What are the practical impacts?
Well, the central bank is definitely cracking down. Governor Mamamo warned they'd confiscate illegally held money. He mentioned a strong technology-assisted system they're using to track transactions. They're even going after agents operating outside the country, especially in Dubai.
And they banned some U.S. money transfer companies, too.
Yes, 4 of them: Shaggy, Adulis, Ramada Payca Express, and TAAJ. The NBE accused them of distorting the exchange rates.
There was also that warning to the diaspora, wasn't there?
Absolutely. Stick to the licensed channels, basically. Don't destabilize the market. Mogiz from Roja Forex Bureau, he points to a few things causing shortages: the interrupted auctions, seasonal demand, but also things like, surprisingly, media promotions for overseas property acquisitions, particularly in Dubai.
Really? How did that affect it?
Well, people wanting to buy property abroad can't really do it with legally transferred money, so it pushes them towards the illegal channels for Forex. On the flip side, to make travel a bit easier, the Commercial Bank of Ethiopia actually increased the foreign currency allowance for people traveling out. And the Financial Intelligence Service, the FIS, they suspended bank accounts 138 individuals suspected of illegal Forex dealings.
So a mix of enforcement and some easing. What about solutions? What are analysts like Merid Johannes proposing?
He suggests some concrete policy tweaks. Cut that MBE commission, the 2.5%. Cap the total fees importers pay at 3%. And importantly, publish the auction allocations, who gets what, for transparency. He also really stresses that banks need to find their own sources of foreign currency, not just rely on the NBE auctions, because that could drain the national reserves meant for emergencies for rainy days.
It really paints a picture of this delicate dance, doesn't it, between policy, market behavior, individual needs, and how it impacts your ability to just transact or plan. The big thing seems to be this battle for trust and efficiency in a system that's still finding its feet after major changes.
Exactly. It's a classic case study in managing a transition where every move has real, immediate consequences.
Okay, let's shift from currency volatility to something aiming for the opposite: stability and trust. We're talking about the new Capital Market Tribunal. After, 4 years of work setting it up, the Ethiopian Capital Market Administrative Tribunal, ECMAT, is finally open for business. So what does this all mean? What's its job?
Right, ECMAT. Our reporting shows it's based in Addis, got a pretty hefty budget, 87 million birr a year. Its mandate is broad, things like insider trading, market manipulation, breaking regulations, investor complaints, basically keeping the new capital market clean. And the structure is interesting. It's not just judges. It mixes federal high court qualified judges with specialists in finance and commerce. The idea is to have both legal rigor and market understanding.
That makes sense. Who's heading it up?
The Prime Minister appointed Abenezerfu as the presiding judge. He's got a solid background, about a decade in legal and policy advisory, including time at the PM's office. And he's ambitious about speed. The law allows 90 days for rulings, but he wants to cut that down to 30. His reasoning: for business, things move by days and hours.
Fast decisions are key. And how about appeals? Can rulings be easily overturned?
That's another interesting design feature. You can appeal ECMAT decisions to the federal high court, but only on points of law, not on the facts they found. This is meant to protect ECMAT's findings and build confidence. FSD Ethiopia even helped develop procedural rules to make it predictable.
Sounds promising for building that crucial investor trust. How are people in the market reacting so far?
Cautiously optimistic, I'd say. We spoke to Antena Casa, CEO of Ethio Fidelity Securities. He called the tribunal overdue but vital. The feeling is, yes, this is needed.
But new institutions always face hurdles, especially in this kind of context. What are the potential worries or pitfalls people are pointing out?
Well, one concern raised by economist Jerome Amha is about the appointment process itself. He warns that Ethiopia's system risks political influence, potentially making these administrative courts seem like just an extension of the government. If that happens, parties might feel they don't have a truly independent place to go.
So a question of genuine independence.
Exactly. And there's another gap: professional discipline. ECMAT can flag repeat offenders, but it doesn't actually have the power to revoke licenses from, say, legal advisors involved in misconduct.
That raises a really important question then. How do you ensure these new legal structures actually build real confidence and fairness, especially with those concerns about political capture hanging around? It's a big test for institutional integrity.
It absolutely is. ECMAT's success will really hinge on whether people believe it's independent, not just whether it is on paper. It sets a huge precedent.
Okay, let's change gears again. Moving to some of Ethiopia's really big national development plans. First up, this huge ambition for agriculture, the horticulture dream. We're talking a $24.5 billion investment plan. That's enormous.
It really is. The Ministry of Agriculture unveiled this new national horticulture strategy aiming to totally transform the sector in 7 years. The targets are, well, ambitious. They want horticulture's share of GDP to go from 4.5% up to 12%, quadruple foreign exchange earnings from it, aiming for $3.3 billion, and create 2 million permanent jobs by 2033.
Wow. Did they say why the new strategy? What was wrong with the old one?
They were quite frank, actually. Admitted the previous strategy did not deliver and got scrapped. They say this new one is grounded in current realities. A huge part of it relies on the private sector stepping up massively. They're expected to develop over 48,000 hectares, way up from the current 14,000.
Okay, a big reset. But what about the challenges on the ground?
Yeah.
Especially since, as you reported, most fruit and veg is eaten domestically right now, not exported. How realistic is this dream?
That's the crux of it. Currently, 98% of vegetables, 99.5% of fruits, they're consumed right here. Most exports just go next door to Djibouti and Somalia. The bottlenecks are the usual suspects: getting land, logistics, water supply, quality control, cold storage chains, market access. It's a long list. But people like Tawadros Sudu, who heads the Horticulture Producers and Exporters Association, he sees making more land available as a genuine break with the past. He thinks it could mean billions, not just millions.
But what about the farmers themselves? We heard from Elimu Aboy down in Arbamij. What's his story tell us?
Alemi's experience is really grounding. He struggles with yields, especially his mangoes getting hit by disease. It highlights that it's not just about more land or trees. It's about needing modern seeds, expert advice, reliable markets, getting proper value for his work.
So infrastructure and know-how are key.
Absolutely. The state minister acknowledged that post-harvest losses are a massive issue, calling for investment there. And Sabria Shara, a horticulture researcher with years of experience, she really emphasizes using agroecology, developing local seeds. She's critical of relying too much on imports. And she warns that without strengthening market linkages, what she calls the heart of horticulture, all these ambitions, they could wither before they bear fruit.
A crucial point. Okay, from the fields, let's go to the skies. Ethiopian Airlines, a national icon, right? But facing some serious turbulence, it seems.
Yeah, our reporting shows they're juggling quite a bit, operationally and financially. Those supply chain problems from the pandemic, still biting 5 years on. It's grounding planes. Roughly a quarter of their domestic fleet, that's like 5 planes plus 2 wide-body international jets, are stuck on the tarmac daily because they can't get spare parts. Engine components, things like that. Get this. Even brand new plane deliveries are being held up because of a shortage of a single seat component.
Seat component, seriously.
Seriously. And it's costing them. They lost $28 million on domestic routes last year, partly because of this. The CEO, Mes Fantasu, thinks things might get back to normal by January 2026, but that's still a way off.
So what does this mean for passengers and the airline's finances? Higher fares?
Almost certainly. Costs are way up. Spare parts prices have apparently doubled. Fuel costs shot up over 50%. And with the birr depreciating, their earnings from domestic tickets sold in birr just don't go as far. The CEO basically said, we'll readjust until we break even. That sounds like fare hikes are coming. We heard from one traveler, Abba Bamebtu, who saw his fare jump by 400 birr literally in minutes while booking, plus agent fees on top.
Ouch. But Ethiopians still post big revenue numbers, right? How's the overall financial health looking, despite these headwinds?
Revenue was up, for 2022-23. Operating profit, too. But net profit before tax actually dipped slightly. Why? Because operating costs jumped even higher by 15%. Expansion costs money. And their Vision 2035 is incredibly ambitious, over 100 new planes, expanding the terminal, studying a whole new mega hub.
That's massive growth. But risky.
Potentially. Analysts like Sada Abraham point to fuel price volatility as a huge risk and are urging them to hedge more. Cargo is still a strong point, though, about 30% of revenue. They've invested heavily in e-commerce warehouses linking into China's Belt and Road Initiative. But liquidity seems tight across the group. Operating cash fell 10%. Fuel costs surged 54%. And while their Skylight Hotel showed a profit turnaround, the auditors flagged some issues like intercompany bookings, making the results look better than they might be.
So what's the advice from analysts like Sada Abraham?
Simplify, refocus. He says cargo is king. Monetize the training university arm. He also pointed out a lack of transparency. They don't publish key efficiency metrics like fuel burn per seat kilometer, which most major airlines do.
Interesting. Okay, let's come back down to earth, literally. From the skies to the streets, a new push on vehicle emissions.
Right. The Ministry of Transport and Logistics put out a new directive back in March. It gave vehicle owners a transition period, now ending. So basically, all diesel and gasoline vehicles need an emissions certificate, or they need to have approved emission reduction tech installed. This applies to pretty much all vehicles needing annual inspection, plus importers and manufacturers.
And if you don't comply,
You get 15 days to fix it. If you don't, your vehicle gets suspended for 15 days. Still don't comply. 3 months suspension. After that, permanent grounding.
that's pretty strict. What's the big environmental picture here, and how easy is this going to be for people to actually do?
Well, the official goal is supporting Ethiopia's Paris Agreement targets, improving public health by cutting air pollution. Context is, Ethiopia has around 1.5 million vehicles, maybe 100,000 electric now. Road transport is about 20% of the transport sector's emissions. Private companies are jumping in. We reported on TBK Trading Pellet, the first licensed importer of these fuel-saving devices. They call them green tech. The co-founder, Bekele Mamo, claims they can cut emissions up to 97%, save 30% on fuel, last 10 years. Prices range from $15,000 up to $50,000 per.
But how are drivers reacting? Is it seen as just another cost?
There's definitely concern about cost. We talked to a meter taxi driver, Halimariam Chekol. He's worried it's just another burden on top of taxes and high fuel prices. He questioned if the country's really ready for this, and industry people like Maki Zawik, a transport consultant, point out real barriers. Getting spare parts is hard, Forex shortages make imports tough, high taxes. He basically said there is no way to cut emissions until you replace the worn-out part. You can't just bolt on a fix if the engine itself is old and inefficient.
A very practical point. Okay, let's shift to some more directly human stories now. Starting with something quite surprising. Visa overstays in the U.S.
Yeah, this data from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is pretty stark. It shows Ethiopia is actually among the global hotspots for people overstaying B1, B2 visas. Those are typically tourist or business visas. In 2023, the overstay rate for Ethiopians was 7.75%. That's over 1,200 people out of about 16,000 entries.
And how does that compare globally?
It's more than 5 times the global average, which is only 1.45%. Most are listed as suspected in-country overstays. Ethiopia ranks 5th highest in Africa for this, and globally, the number of Ethiopian overstayers surpasses countries that send way more travelers to the U.S., like Romania or South Korea.
Wow. So what's driving this? What are the push and pull factors, and what does it mean for Ethiopians trying to get visas in the future?
Well, the consequences are serious. If you overstay by more than 180 days, U.S. law imposes re-entry bans 3 years, even 10 years. And high overstay rates inevitably lead to tougher visa screening and more denials for everyone applying from that country down the line.
So it affects future applicants.
Exactly. As for the causes, legal expert Tigabu Desalegn points to the push factors: political uncertainty back home, economic difficulties, lack of job opportunities. He said, quite frankly, their only goal is to get a better life. We can't avoid or stop people from seeking better lives abroad because it is their right. Pull factors include diaspora networks already in the U.S., relatively easy internal movement once you're in, and maybe challenges in tracking departures accurately. Consular officers in Addis are likely already quietly factoring these patterns into decisions.
And it's not just tourist visas.
No, the rates for student and exchange visas were even higher, almost 20% in 2023 and nearly 31% the year before. This is all happening against a politically charged backdrop in Washington, too, which could potentially complicate U.S.-Ethiopia relations.
Has there been any official response?
The U.S. ambassador, Irvin Masinga, confirmed they are working with the Ethiopian government to try and reduce the rates. And the U.S. Embassy spokesperson basically said there haven't been any recent policy changes yet, but didn't rule out future measures, hinting at things like requiring financial bonds, which they've done for countries like Malawi and Zambia. Tigabu Desalegn's advice: leverage that long diplomatic history between the countries over 120 years, build strong relationships.
Okay, let's wrap up with a story that's very immediate, very personal for families in Addis. A big dispute over a tuition hike at an elite private school.
Right, this is happening at Labawi International Academy. It sparked quite a backlash from parents, the core issue. The school more than doubled tuition fees for the upcoming 2025-26 school year.
Doubled? How are they justifying that?
The school calls it a currency-based adjustment, not strictly a fee increase. Parents strongly disagree, calling it a large and unjustified price hike. And the background is important here. Labawi had apparently been tying its fees to the US dollar for years, even though that was technically prohibited. After the Education and Training Authority, the ETA, and the NBE banned that practice, the school switched to a birr schedule. But parents claim the new birr amounts just happen to mirror the old dollar amounts calculated at the current high exchange rates.
So it feels like a way around the rule. That puts parents in a tough spot. What's the regulatory weakness here? How can this happen?
Well, the ETA actually told Labawi to stop the practice and suspend registration. They issued 3 directives. But the school seems to have gone ahead. The new fees are huge. We're talking 693,000 birr for early years, 840,000 for primary, and nearly 1 million birr a year for grades 9 to 12.
1 million birr for high school.
Per year. Parents are upset, saying the school didn't hold proper discussions, didn't follow rules about holding a general assembly before making such a big change. Interestingly, the ETA's deputy director, Wubshet Tadel, confirmed Labawi wanted to compensate for the loss of profit from not being able to charge in dollars anymore. But he also admitted the ETA doesn't actually have the power to set price caps or penalize schools for charging too much. Their role is limited to just trying to mediate.
So they can't enforce anything.
Well, it seems not, on pricing, which leaves parents like Abel Gebretzidik in a terrible bind. He told Addis Fortune his bill for his 2 kids is now over 1.5 million birr. Last year, for one child, it was 330,000 birr. It's a massive jump.
So fundamentally, there's no cap, no formal way to approve or reject these kinds of hikes.
Exactly, that's the systemic issue. No cap, no mechanism, families are just exposed. An education expert, Mikbid Tasso, argued strongly that the government needs a clear line defining what international schools can and can't do. He thinks the state has to step up as a proper regulator here. And a legal consultant, Abdurazak Nezro, suggested this might even be a case for the Trade Practice and Consumer Protection Tribunal. He argued that excessive pricing or procedural unfairness could potentially trigger legal action, even if parents sign contracts initially.
It really throws a spotlight on that tension, doesn't it, between letting private schools operate and protecting families, especially in something as vital as education. Where do you draw the line?
It certainly does. It just underscores the need for really clear, really robust regulations as the market develops. You need rules of the game everyone understands.
Wow, quite a journey we've taken today, really getting into Ethiopia's pivotal moment. We've unpacked the currency knots, the hopes for new institutions like ICMAT, those huge dreams for horticulture, and the challenges facing Ethiopian Airlines, emissions policies, and these very real social issues like migration patterns and school fees.
And pulling it all together, you see how interconnected it all is, right? Insights from Addis Fortune's reporting show these aren't just isolated stories. Understanding these details, these nuances, is key to really getting a sense of Ethiopia's overall direction, managing global forces and internal shifts all at once.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. As Ethiopia tackles all these reforms, these big ambitions, and faces this mix of pressures, what specific area do you think needs the most immediate, the most focused attention to make sure progress is sustainable and truly equitable for everyone? Something to chew on.
Definitely a lot to think about. These are the conversations shaping the country's future right now.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into Ethiopia's current affairs, straight from the reporting of Addis Fortune.